What's happening, troops? Welcome back to another video here on the SharpDiv YouTube channel. I hope that everybody had a great weekend. There was plenty of football for us to get our teeth sunk right into, kicking off on the Saturday in the SPFL. We were supposed to have 3 games, but the Dundee United and St Johnstone game was postponed, which will be playing tonight as you watch this video. So as we can't react to that in this video, let me know in the comment section below how you think it'll go. Now, I was kind of leaning towards Dundee United nicking it if Shankly, McNulty, Nicky Clark can show up in the game, but as we're fast approaching the rescheduled kickoff, I'm going to go for a draw. In this video today, I'm going to be recapping and giving my opinions on the Scottish Premiership games that took place over this weekend, and of course yesterday as well on Monday. We're going to work it chronologically, and we'll start off with the Killie Pies. It's Kilmarnock 2, Hamilton 0. Going into the game with Hamilton picking up 4 points from their last 6 games and looking to be on decent form and trying to turn that corner. And with Kilmarnock probably turning that corner as well and picking up some positive results. Should have got the 3 points versus St Mirren if it wasn't for the goalkeeper making an absolute calamity of a cross. And I thought it might be a draw in this game, but Kilmarnock were the team that were able to impose themselves into the game, and they dominated pretty much the entirety of it. Now, the man that dominated this game and was the difference, scoring 2 goals, the only 2 goals of course in the game, was Greg Killie, a player that I've actually got in my fantasy team. You know, picked me up 13 points this week, so I was buzzing about that. Let me just check if he was my star performer actually. Yeah, 13 points for a man, Greg Killie, picking me up some well needed points because I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie. I don't know about all yous, but I'm just not good at this game. Greg Killie is a player that seems to have been around for absolute decades, but he's still only 23 years old. He's made an upwards of 100 appearances for Kilmarnock. He was loaned out in 2014, and then when he came back to Kilmarnock, he started to make his way, and he's always looked like a promising player. But then again in 2019, they shipped him out to the Championship again on loan, and he just looked potentially like a guy that wasn't going to be able to fulfil his potential. But this season he started to get a stranglehold in the starting 11 for Kilmarnock, and this performance is probably his best to date. A potential criticism for Greg Killie is that he doesn't score enough goals or he doesn't get enough assists, but 2 goals in a game which, if Hamilton won, they would have been level in points with Kilmarnock. So it was absolutely huge and pivotal that somebody like him put a performance like this in, and he done exactly that. Got them the 3 points and put some breathing space between them and the relegation battle. What does it mean for Hamilton? Well, they're still sitting 11th in the league with a potential of 3 points at the end of January, depending on what this SFA or SPFL do. Moving into the next game, and it's St Mirren 1, Motherwell 1. A game in which Graham Alexander managed the team for the first time. I don't think I've gave my thoughts on him just yet, but if you've watched the No First Touch podcast, I was convinced that Tommy Wright would get this job until the end of the season at least. He comes in and he's got experience in the league, he knows the other teams, he knows the players that are at Motherwell, but they went with Graham Alexander, a coach and a manager that has been competing at each club he's been at for promotion. He was a manager at Salford, who everybody knows have got a wee bit of that, and when he was at them, they were pushing for promotion. So they've potentially looked at the acquisition of Graham Alexander and thought to themselves, this is a guy that could potentially not just be with us until the end of the season, but a guy that could further push us up the league, get us back into the top 6. And watching his interview, that is the ambitions that he has got. But I'm sure some of the Motherwell fans will have reservations, so I guess we'll soon find out how Alexander does. But it was a great start at the helm of the Steelmen. They had a great first half. They probably should have scored more goals in the game. Tony Watt had an opportunity and Devante Cole had a couple until he broke the deadlock. And from there on out, Motherwell should probably have got another goal and been out of sight from St Mirren, who are a team that are in form as well. And that would have been a really positive result for Graham Alexander in his first game in charge. But they kind of just let the game linger on. St Mirren started to build on it, started to have opportunities. And when you've got a player like Alnwick in goals for you, you're always going to have a chance. But unfortunately for St Mirren and Motherwell, it was a penalty, and a dubious penalty, that actually awarded St Mirren an avenue back into this football match. And yes, Bobby Madden was getting a lot of criticism regarding giving the penalty, because for me it certainly wasn't. Firstly, Gallagher isn't making a foul, and Mugabe, who comes in, gets the ball by a country mile. But sometimes I think when a player goes down dramatically like Irwin did, it's conning the referee. The referee sees a movement, his view might have been obstructed, and a player just goes down screaming for a penalty. So if he thinks he's seen something, a player's conning the referee essentially, I think the blame should be directed more towards the player that actually done the conning. But Jamie McGrath still had to step up and put the penalty away, which he did with a plump, and the confidence is just growing for this player. Game in, game on. Game in, game on, week in, week out. That's what I meant to say, aye. Moving into the final parts of the game, and there was a couple of opportunities, the biggest coming from 2 set pieces. Jack Alnwick makes a really good save, but so does that man in goal for Motherwell, Killie. And for me, he's a really good player. He was brilliant at Livingston, he went down to QPR, didn't get his opportunities, now back up the road on loan to Motherwell. And I think he might be the difference for what kind of separates them from your Hamiltons and your Ross Counties in this relegation battle, because he is a big time player, and it was a big time save that he made for Motherwell as well. Moving into the early Sunday kickoff game, and it is Rangers 2, Aberdeen 1 at Pittodrie. I've already gave most of my opinions on this game, but I want to highlight 2 players that I don't think I gave enough credit to in my post-match reaction. First being Ryan Kent, who's now in 6 assists for the season, and it was 2 beautiful assists for Alfredo Morelos, especially the second one. It is a deft touch that not even Steven Gerrard's seen, because in his post-match, when the interviewer credited him with the assist, he said, "Are you sure it wasn't Joe Aribo?" "No, Stevie, I'm sure you'll be as buzzing as we were," with that beautiful wee touch for Ryan Kent. He gets 2 assists in this game, and he was just back to his fine form that he showed at the start of the season. He always seems to step it up against Aberdeen, and hopefully he can now go on and he can replicate that. The other player that I want to highlight is Alan McGregor, because the save that he makes against Johnny Hayes is just absolutely superb. And in a league which gets a lot of criticism for the calibre of players, for the calibre of competition, he is a shining light. He consistently can pull off world-class saves, and that is something that I've seen everybody in Scottish football talk about after the Old Firm game, about Alan McGregor and his world-class moments within games. This one was more, I don't know if it was world-class, but it was certainly an unbelievable save that is up there. And it's a save that world-class goalkeepers need to make. When you're not called into action for large periods in games against teams that you are dominating and you're cold probably, you need to step up in the moments. That's what the best goalkeepers in the world do. And that's what Alan McGregor does as well, week in, week out. And it's another 3 points for Rangers, which of course heaped the pressure on Celtic yesterday, but I'm sure we'll get on to that game. The next game, Livingston 3, Ross County 1, and that is now 8 wins on the bounce for Livingston. After a season that just looked down and out for them under Holt, he resigns, moves on. Everybody's thinking, it's a wee bit premature for him to do that. He's done a lot for this team, a lot for this club. But David Martindale's come in and he's now got 8 wins from 8. They play Celtic next, I believe, and they'll be looking to make it 9 wins from 9. And something that I absolutely love about Livingston, and something that I think David Martindale's brought back, is just to play to their strengths. And that is, sometimes you need to go direct. And when you do that, when you get into the positions to punish your opponent, you need to have the quality, and that's exactly what Livingston have got. The first goal coming from Scott Robinson, who's one of the informed players in the league at the moment, puts a delicious chip over the oncoming Ross County defender and puts it in the back of the net. It's a long ball, which sometimes you need to play in football. If it's on, it's on. He makes the run, but the finish is where the skill comes into it. And that is where I think teams like Livingston differ from others that try to be more direct. They've got that quality in the final third. And their second goal was even better. That's where the footballing side of Livingston came into play. And it's in a moment where they needed to score, because Ross County had obviously pulled the goal back. Wee bit of fortune, but the lad takes it well. And going into that last 10 minutes, it's Forrest that pops up, gets on the end of a great move, and puts Livingston ahead. They then go on to get a third goal, and from watching the highlights, I think the Big J Emmanuel Thomas made a big difference, and they're still 5th in the table. I think they're 6 points now behind Hibs with 2 games in hand, so they're really pushing and chapping on the door for 4th and 3rd. In the final game of the weekend, well, leading in to the Monday, because it got changed, of course, to the Monday, with Celtic 1, Hibs 1. And to be honest, it wasn't a great game, was it? There was moments within the game, but it was pretty scrappy. The massive news that came out on Sunday was that 13 players from Celtic would need to self-isolate because Christopher Jullien had contracted COVID-19, and 3 staff members. Now, there was lists going about here, there and everywhere. Who's it going to be? There was one list that was like the perfect list for Celtic fans, and then there was one list that was like the perfect list for Hibs. And it ended up being almost like kind of down the middle, didn't it? You had pretty much the full attack for Celtic missing. They ended up having to start a young lad, Harper, who just wasn't at it, just wasn't ready for the opportunity, and was not great in the game at all. I think he was trying to impress too much and ends up going off with cramp 60 minutes into the game. But I think that's where Celtic were most lacking. Of course, they had a makeshift kind of centre-back partnership of Duffy, who obviously isn't good enough to be a title challenging side, or a team that want to have aspirations to be in a title charge. And then you had the young player Welsh partnering him, and Hibs didn't get after that enough, in my opinion. They didn't start dodging the match, which of course I think Jack Ross seen and brought him on like 50 minutes into the game, because he realised that you could get after the Celtic defence. You could try and cause them more problems than you're already causing them. I did actually think that Celtic would win the match 1-0, not before I heard all the players that were missing, but still you couldn't really predict it because you didn't know who was missing in the game. And when the team sheet comes out, I had Hibs as favourites because they had a better team out, in my opinion. Yes, Celtic still had their base in the midfield, but their defence was makeshift and their strike force was makeshift. And you already seen earlier in the season, when they didn't have a striker and they were playing Christie, they were absolutely hopeless. So what chance were they going to have with this young lad up front? I think Hibs started well without really testing Hazard enough, who was in goals. Nisbit had an opportunity that he should have done better with, that just kind of went straight to the goalkeeper. But other than that, it was quite a drib-drab affair. I think Hibs were the better team for the majority, up until maybe the last 5 minutes, where there was shots for distance, for Sorrow, for Laxalt, and then the biggest opportunity was for Callum McGregor, who should have scored, but he didn't put it in the back of the net. So that's that. We move it to the second half, and Hibs dropped off. I thought they just weren't at it. They were slow, they were pedantic, they were giving the ball away. And Celtic started to get a hold of the ball. They get an opportunity through Stephen McGinn, who's just come onto the park, fouling in a key area for Celtic. And David Turnbull, the man who's in form, I mean, I don't know where Celtic would be without this player at the moment, puts it in the top corner, and it's a really good finish. And from that point, you maybe think they've got away with one here with all the players missing. They've scored a great goal, they're going to go on and win. But of course, the absolute bane in Celtic's team this season comes back to bite them in the arse yet again, and it's defending set pieces. Stevie Malin gets a free kick, puts it into a delicious area. They don't win the first ball. Hazard doesn't win the second ball. They don't clear it at the third attempt. They pass it straight to Nisbit, who now goes joint top goal scorer in the league, and he's no missing for there. And it's 1-1, and it's now 21 points clear for Rangers. Wow. In summary of the SPFL, currently in this weekday, the top scorers, Nisbit and Tav with 11 goals. Of course, Tavernier missing out and going for 12 goals. Top assists, that man again, Tav, top of the table with 8 assists with Yanis Hadji. And lastly, I'll just pop the league table up on the screen here. Rangers starting to get some real daylight between them and Celtic. Livingston fighting back versus 4th and 3rd of Aberdeen and Hibs. And Hamilton and Ross County kind of down there at the bottom at the moment. But let me know what you think about everything that's happened in Scottish football this weekend. If you've enjoyed the video, give it a wee like, subscribe to the channel, would help out a lot. I've been SharpDiv, you've been yourself, and I'm out.